The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Even as the world faces a series of extreme weather events that scientists warn is related to global warming, international climate negotiations are moving at a glacial pace. The latest round of climate talks in Bonn, Germany, ended last week, and diplomats have just one more short meeting in China in the coming months to hash out their differences before the critical high-level climate conference in Cancún, Mexico, at the end of the year. At the meetings in Bonn, the negotiating text got a lot bigger, and a number of proposals from developing countries were added into the controversial agreement that came out of the divisive Copenhagen summit last year. Some fear the new text could slow down talks in Cancun, but others say the concerns of the majority of the world's countries are finally represented in the text. For more on what this means for a binding global agreement on climate change, I'm joined here in New York by Ambassador Pablo Solón, Bolivia's permanent representative to the United Nations. He was just in Bonn last week. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Hello. Pleasure to be here with you.
It's good to have you with us. As you listen to the litany of extreme weather all over the world, your thoughts as you return from Bonn?
Well, I would say that what you have shown is a reality that is not changing as fast as we would want the process of negotiation. I have heard speeches in Bonn relating the situation in Pakistan, but the concrete pledges to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are the same that 1 year ago. And with the current pledges of emission reductions from developed countries, we're going to be in something like 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, an increase in 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, what we are seeing, what you have shown, is related to an increase of less than 1 degree Celsius. So can you imagine a situation where this triples or multiplies by 4? It's unbelievable. And still, developed countries have put on the table targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that will increase the temperature dramatically during the coming years and during this century. So that is something that until now it hasn't changed. I go to all the negotiations during this year. We have put all the evidence, and still the pledges of developed countries remain the same, very, very low. Almost do business as usual.
What about the United States in particular? Where are we on this?
The United States has made a very, very small pledge. It is something that means to reduce 3% from the levels of 1990. To compare it, other countries like the European Union have said that 20% to 30%. The United States, 3%, so almost nothing at all. Why? That is the question. Because corporate interests, economy, profits have more weight in the negotiation than, I would say, to preserve life and biodiversity and Mother Earth in climate talks. So that is the problem that we are facing. In Cancun, the greatest challenge is, are we going to have a deal where developed countries are going to reduce in the next 7 years at least the half of their emissions? Yes or no? We say it very clearly. If this doesn't happen, what we are seeing now is just the first episode of a tragedy. So we need to put a lot of pressure around the whole world if we want really to have greenhouse gas emission reduction that saves life.
Just remind people, how would you summarize what happened in Copenhagen, just to get a sense of where we are now?
Well, what happened in Copenhagen was that the process of negotiation was kidnapped by a group of countries. Usually we negotiate 192 countries. And suddenly in Copenhagen, a group of countries said, now, this is the Copenhagen Accord. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. You have 1 hour to sign it. And of course we said, no, not at all. We want to discuss it. Why? Because in that Copenhagen Accord said that the target was to limit the temperature to 2 degrees Celsius. So that is almost 3 times what we are seeing now. And there are a lot of countries that are saying we should limit the temperature to 1.5 or to 1 degree Celsius. That is the proposal of Bolivia. Why? Because some states are going to disappear. There is a state called Tuvalu. Its wide is 607 meters. Its highest hill is 4 meters. If the temperature keeps rising, it will be under the water. So now we have, after the climate talk in Bonn, a new text. It's bigger, as you have said, but it has the proposals of developing countries to limit the increase of the temperature, to develop a climate court of justice, because somebody has to be responsible for this, to not only commodify, to not make profit through a new market, carbon market mechanism, but also to recognize the rights of Mother Earth in the process of negotiation. So now we have a text that reflects, from our point of view, the proposals that were made in Cochabamba, in the People's World Conference on Climate Change and Mother Earth Rights. So now the key thing is, from here until Cancun, what is going to prevail? It's going to prevail the people's voice, Mother Earth's voice, or it's going to prevail corporate's voice.
I'm looking at a piece by John Vidal in The Guardian. New research reveals carbon emissions from rich nations could actually rise under loopholes in the proposed UN climate deal. What are these gaping loopholes in the climate change treaty put forward in Copenhagen?
Well, it's, for example, a country says, I'm going to reduce 20%. So you say, oh, that's fantastic. But in reality, there is some tricky parts in the different treaties that allow him, for example, to buy certificates of emission reduction in another developing country. So he, in reality, is not going to reduce. He's just going to pay somebody else that is going to do his job, but there won't be a real emission reduction. Second, there is a way of accounting. So I say, I'm reducing because now I have planted some more trees here and I account them in this way. So there are too many things in the negotiation that really make things even worse. So today in Bonn, or last week in Bonn, it was very clear that they say the average is going to be a reduction in the best scenario of 18%, taking into account the levels of 1990. But because of these loopholes, in reality, there could be an increase to 4 to 7 or 7% of the emissions of 1990. So what we are asking for is that when a country says, I'm going to reduce, say